Chess looks complicated. It really isn't. In the next 10 minutes, I'll teach you everything you need to actually sit down and play a real game, the board, every single piece, the special moves, and how games are won. No jargon, no boring theory dumps. Just the stuff that gets you playing today. By the end of this, you'll know how chess works. So grab a board if you've got one and let's go. First, the board. 64 squares, light and dark, 8 rows by 8 columns. Quick way to set it up right. The bottom right square should always be light. Light on the right. The columns going across are called files, labeled A through H. The rows going up are ranks, numbered 1 through 8. So every square has a name like E4 or D1, a letter and a number. You'll see those labels around the edge of our board the whole video, so you can always follow along. Now the pieces. On the back row from the corners inward, rook, then knight, then bishop. Then the 2 royals in the middle, king and queen. Here's the trick for which goes where. The queen always starts on her own color. White queen on a light square, black queen on a dark one. And across the whole front row, a wall of pawns. Both sides set up the exact same way, mirror images facing off. That's your starting position. Now let's get these pieces moving. Pawns, the little foot soldiers. They only move forward 1 square at a time and never ever backward. But there's a bonus. On a pawn's very first move, it gets the option to jump 1 square or 2. After that, it's 1 at a time. Now here's the part that confuses absolutely everyone. Pawns don't capture straight ahead. They capture diagonally 1 square forward and to the side. Look at the circles. Straight ahead to move, diagonally to take. Pawns are also your least valuable piece. Worth about 1 point, our basic unit. They feel weak and slow, but stick with them, because later they pull off something incredible. The knight, the horse. This is the fun one and the one beginners find trickiest. It moves in an L shape, 2 squares in one direction, then 1 square to the side. Count the circles from the middle, it can reach 8 different squares. And here's the knight's superpower. It's the only piece that can jump right over other pieces. Walls of pawns, enemy pieces, doesn't matter, it just hops over. A knight is worth about 3 points, same as a bishop. It looks awkward at first, but once it clicks, you'll love it. The bishop, nice and clean. It slides diagonally as far as it wants in any direction until something gets in the way. That's the whole rulebook for the bishop. One important quirk. Each bishop is locked to 1 color for the entire game. If it starts on a light square, it lives on light squares forever and never touches a dark one. You've got 2 of them, 1 for each color, and together they cover the whole board. A bishop's also worth about 3 points, just like the knight. The rook, the one shaped like a little tower or castle. It moves in straight lines, up, down, left, and right as far as you want. Simple but seriously powerful. Rooks come alive on open files, columns with no pawns clogging them up, where they can see all the way across the board. Each rook is worth about 5 points, so they're heavy hitters. You start with 2, tucked in the corners. They usually get into the action later in the game, once the board opens up. The queen, the absolute boss of the board. She moves like a rook and a bishop combined, straight lines and diagonals, any direction, any distance. Just look at how many squares she controls from the center. She is by far your most powerful piece, worth about 9 points, basically a rook and a bishop put together. So protect her. A beginner's most common disaster is losing the queen for nothing, and that usually loses the game on the spot. Strong as she is, don't get her caught. And the king, the most important piece on the board, even though he's not the strongest. He moves just 1 square at a time in any direction. That's it, nice and slow. Here's the thing, you can never actually lose your king or capture him. The entire game is built around keeping him safe, because if he ever gets trapped with no escape, the game is over. So early on, the king stays home and stays sheltered, which brings us perfectly to the first special move. Because keeping that king safe is so important, there's a clever move just for it. This is castling, and it does 2 things in a single move. Watch closely. The king slides 2 squares toward one of his rooks, and that rook jumps over to the king's other side, landing right next to him. 1 turn, 2 pieces moved, the only time in chess you're allowed to do that. And it's the fastest, safest way to get your king tucked into the corner, with a rook beside him for protection. A few conditions. There can't be any pieces between the king and rook. Neither of them can have moved yet, and you can't castle while you're in check. The advice every coach repeats: castle early. Get that king safe before the fighting starts. This next one is called en passant, French for in passing. Fancy name, simple idea, and it ambushes every single beginner. Here's the situation. When a pawn uses its big 2-square jump to slip right past an enemy pawn, that enemy pawn is allowed to capture it anyway, exactly as if it had only moved 1 square. Watch. Black jumps 2 squares forward, sliding past the white pawn, and white captures diagonally onto the empty square right behind it. The black pawn comes off the board. The one catch: you have to do it immediately on the very next move. Wait even 1 turn and you lose the right forever. Rare, but when it shows up, now you'll know it. And here's the pawn's big payoff. Remember how I said pawns were slow and weak? This is their reward, and it's huge. If a pawn manages to march all the way to the far end of the board, the 8th rank for white, the 1st for black, it promotes. It transforms into any piece you choose. And almost every single time you choose a queen, the strongest piece in the game. Watch this little pawn reach the last row and turn into a brand new queen. Just like that, your weakest piece becomes your most powerful one. That's why even a single passed pawn can decide a whole game. Alright, now let's talk about how games actually end, because this is where it all comes together. First, you need the word check. Check simply means the king is under attack. Some enemy piece is threatening to capture him on the next move. See the queen attacking the king straight down the open file. That is check. And when you're in check, you cannot ignore it. You have to get out of it right now, this turn. You've got exactly 3 options. Move the king to a safe square, block the attack by putting a piece in the way, or capture the attacking piece. One of those 3. If you can do at least one, you're fine. But this is the big one: checkmate. Checkmate is just check with no way out. The king is under attack, and there is no legal move that saves him. He can't run, he can't block, and he can't capture his way to safety. Take a look. The rook attacks all the way along the back row. The king's own pawns are trapping him in from behind, and every square he might run to is cover. No escape. That is checkmate, and that right there is how you win a game of chess. The king is never actually captured. The moment he's trapped with no escape, the game ends. Game over, you win. But hold on, be really careful with this next one, because it's the trap that steals wins from beginners all the time. It's called stalemate. It looks just like checkmate, but it absolutely is not. Here, the king is not in check, but the player whose turn it is has no legal move at all. The king has nowhere safe to go, and no other piece can move either. And when that happens, the game is not won, it's a draw, a tie. Nobody wins. So if you're way ahead and closing in for the kill, watch out. Trap the enemy king too carelessly, and you can throw the entire game away with one careless move. The rule of thumb: always leave the king a square to breathe, right up until you're ready to deliver real checkmate. One last thing, and it might be the most useful: how to actually start a game well. And the good news: you don't need to memorize a single opening. Just follow 3 simple ideas every game. Number 1, control the center. Push one of your center pawns out like this. It grabs valuable space and opens up lines for your bigger pieces to come out. The center is the high ground, own it. Number 2, develop your pieces. Get your knights and bishops off the back row and into the game quickly, pointing them toward that center. Don't move the same piece 5 times, bring everybody out. And number 3, which you already know, castle early and get your king safe. That's the entire plan. Center, develop, castle. Do those 3 things and you'll already be playing better than most beginners out there. So there you have it, the board, every piece, all the special moves, check, mate, stalemate, and a real plan to start your games. You officially know how to play chess. Now the only thing left is to go play. Honestly, a few real games will teach you more than any video. So jump in. And if this helped you out, hit that subscribe button for more, and I'll see you in the next one.